There are people who walk into a room and instantly change the energy without trying. They are not always the richest, loudest, or best looking, but people notice them, remember them, trust them, want to be around them. What makes them so attractive is not appearance. It is the way they live every single day. Real attraction is not built in the mirror. It is built through habits, quiet habits, daily habits. These 10 habits will not just change how people see you, they will change who you become. Number 1. Speak less. The man who says the least often controls the entire room without trying. Most men spend their lives explaining themselves, defending themselves, chasing attention, trying to prove their value through constant talking, because deep down they are terrified of being ignored. And women notice this immediately, even when they never say it out loud, because a man who cannot sit comfortably in silence usually carries insecurity beneath his words, and that insecurity leaks into every conversation, every text message, every argument, every emotional reaction, until people stop respecting his presence and start tolerating it instead. And this becomes even worse when a woman pulls away emotionally, because the average man responds by talking more, texting more, explaining more, asking more questions, trying harder to fix the situation, while she quietly loses attraction in real time, because desperation speaks loudly even when words do not. And this is why silence becomes power when it is controlled instead of emotional. Because Stoicism teaches a man to observe before reacting, to listen before speaking, to understand before exposing his emotions carelessly to people who have not earned access to them. And the moment a man learns how to stop filling every empty space with nervous energy, his entire presence changes, because now people must lean toward him instead of him leaning toward them. Now his words carry weight because they are rare. Now women start wondering what he is thinking instead of predicting every emotion before he even speaks. And this does not mean becoming cold or robotic. It means developing enough self-control to stop giving away your mind to every person who demands access to it. Because many men destroy their own value by over-explaining themselves to women who already made up their minds long before the conversation even started. And the painful truth is, she often understands exactly how you feel while pretending not to notice, because your emotional exposure gives her control over the situation while leaving you emotionally exposed and mentally exhausted. So instead of speaking impulsively, learn to pause, breathe, and stay grounded inside yourself, because not every opinion deserves your response. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every disagreement deserves a long emotional explanation. And the more comfortable you become with silence, the more people start respecting your presence, because silence forces others to reveal themselves while keeping your own power protected. And over time, you begin noticing something painful but freeing at the same time. The men who constantly talk about their strength usually have none, while the calm man who speaks carefully often carries real discipline, real pain, real wisdom, and real self-control, built through years of suffering quietly without demanding sympathy from the world. Number 2. Stay calm under pressure. Nothing exposes a man faster than the way he reacts when life stops going his way. Most men believe confidence is about appearance, money, status, or charm, but pressure destroys fake confidence within seconds, because pressure reveals the truth hiding underneath the surface. And this is exactly why emotional control becomes one of the rarest and most attractive traits a man can develop, because the average person completely falls apart when emotions become intense, especially around women, and she notices every emotional crack no matter how hard you try to hide it. Because women study emotional weakness instinctively. They pay attention to your reactions, your tone, your posture, your eyes, the speed of your response. And when a man loses control over small situations, she immediately starts questioning whether he can handle bigger ones. And many men sabotage their own lives because they allow emotions to control their decisions in moments that require discipline instead of panic. One cold message changes their mood for the entire day. One disrespectful comment destroys their peace. One argument consumes their thoughts for weeks. And slowly they become emotionally dependent on outside situations, staying comfortable instead of developing inner stability. But Stoicism teaches something far more powerful. It teaches a man that peace is built internally through discipline and self-control, not through controlling people. And once a man truly understands this, he stops reacting emotionally to everything around him, because he realizes his reactions shape his reality more than the events themselves. And this changes everything, because now when she tests your patience, pulls away emotionally, acts distant, becomes disrespectful, or tries to provoke an emotional response from you, you no longer collapse into frustration or desperation, trying to force control over something outside yourself. Instead, you remain calm, observant, disciplined, and emotionally grounded, because your emotional state no longer depends on another person's behavior. And this creates something powerful inside a man, a deep stability that people can sense immediately, because calmness under pressure communicates strength without needing words. And the truth many men avoid accepting is that emotional reactions often come from fear. Fear of losing someone, fear of not being enough, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone. But once you stop allowing fear to control your mind, you begin moving through life differently, because now your peace belongs to you instead of belonging to other people. And from that point forward, people stop seeing you as emotionally fragile and start experiencing you as a man who cannot easily be shaken by temporary situations or emotional chaos. If you are tired of losing yourself emotionally in relationships, tired of overthinking, chasing clarity, and carrying silent pressure nobody understands, then the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men was created for you, filled with timeless Stoic principles that immediately help you rebuild discipline, emotional control, self-respect, and inner peace. And it is now also available in the audiobook version, so you can absorb this life-changing knowledge while driving, training, jogging, or clearing your mind after a long day, with the link waiting for you in the comments. This is not temporary motivation you listen to once and forget. This becomes yours permanently, meaning you will always have access to this wisdom whenever life tests you again, whenever emotions become heavy, whenever you need guidance to stay grounded and strong instead of emotionally collapsing under pressure. And for the men who want to go even deeper, the Stoic Relationship Blueprint course for men is launching in the coming weeks with powerful lessons designed to completely transform the way you think, lead yourself, handle women, and carry your presence through life. So comment Blueprint right now if you want early access before everyone else. Number 3. Keep your promises. A man who cannot trust himself slowly destroys his own confidence from the inside. Most men break promises to themselves so often that disappointment becomes their normal state without even realizing it. Because every time you say you will wake up early and fail, every time you say you will train and avoid it, every time you say you will change your life and remain stuck in the same habits, your mind records it as weakness. And after years of repeating this cycle, many men begin living with quiet shame hidden underneath their personality, because deep down they no longer believe their own words carry weight. And this becomes dangerous because women notice inconsistency quickly. She watches whether your actions match your words, whether your discipline survives difficult days, whether your standards disappear the moment emotions become uncomfortable. And many men lose respect in relationships because they build emotional fantasies instead of building discipline. They promise change while repeating the same behaviors. They speak about leadership while lacking control over their own routines. And eventually she stops taking them seriously because a man who cannot lead himself cannot lead anything else. And Stoicism teaches that character is built privately through repeated action long before the world ever notices it publicly, meaning your real strength is not proven through speeches or motivation, but through daily decisions nobody claps for. And this is where transformation begins, because the moment a man starts keeping small promises to himself, his entire identity slowly changes, waking up when he says he will, exercising consistently, controlling his impulses, finishing difficult tasks without excuses, staying disciplined even when nobody is watching. And over time, these small actions create something powerful inside him, self-respect, because confidence is not created through compliments or validation from women. Confidence is created through evidence that you can rely on yourself under pressure, evidence that your discipline survives difficult emotions, evidence that your actions remain consistent even when motivation disappears. And once a man reaches this point, he no longer chases approval desperately because he already respects himself internally, and this changes the way he walks, speaks, thinks, and handles relationships, because now his standards stop bending for temporary emotional comfort. Now he stops tolerating disrespect simply because he fears loneliness. Now he understands that discipline creates freedom, while weakness creates dependence. And although many men spend years blaming outside circumstances for their unhappiness, the painful truth is their biggest betrayal often comes from themselves, because they abandon their own goals repeatedly while expecting life to reward them anyway. But the moment a man decides his word means something again, his entire future begins changing quietly from the inside outward. Number 4. Stop chasing approval. The moment a man stops needing validation from everyone around him, he becomes impossible to control. Most men spend years shaping their personalities around what women, friends, family, and society approve of because they are terrified of being disliked, judged, ignored, or abandoned. And this fear slowly destroys authenticity until they become watered-down versions of themselves, saying safe things, hiding real opinions, avoiding confrontation, pretending to agree just to keep peace. And over time, this behavior drains the life out of them, because a man who constantly edits himself for acceptance eventually forgets who he really is underneath the performance. And women often lose attraction to this type of man, because although she may enjoy the attention and emotional safety he provides, she rarely deeply respects a man who abandons himself just to avoid conflict, because deep down, people respect strength, honesty, boundaries, and emotional stability far more than endless agreeableness. And Stoicism teaches a man to anchor his identity internally instead of building it around the reactions of others, meaning your values, standards, discipline, and direction cannot depend on applause or approval, because the opinions of people constantly change, while your character must remain steady. And this becomes especially important in relationships, because many men slowly lose themselves trying to keep a woman happy at all times, tolerating disrespect, abandoning goals, suppressing opinions, constantly seeking reassurance, over-explaining emotions, and sacrificing their dignity just to maintain temporary emotional comfort. But the harder they chase approval, the less respected they become, because desperation weakens presence while self-respect strengthens it. And eventually, a painful realization arrives. She is not attracted to the version of you that constantly seeks permission to exist confidently. She is attracted to certainty, direction, emotional control, and grounded masculinity. And this is why a man must learn how to stand comfortably inside his own mind, even when people disagree with him, because real confidence means remaining calm without needing everyone to validate your choices, your personality, your interests, or your path in life. And once a man develops this internal stability, he stops becoming emotionally manipulated by attention, silence, praise, or criticism, because his identity no longer depends on external reactions, and this creates enormous freedom because now he can speak honestly, walk away from disrespect, protect his peace, maintain his standards, and build a life based on truth instead of performance. And although many men spend decades trying to become more likable, the truth is, people respect authenticity far more than approval. Seeking behavior, because authenticity communicates strength while constant people-pleasing communicates fear. And once a man finally releases the exhausting need to be accepted by everyone, he begins becoming someone people naturally respect without him forcing it. Number 5. Take full responsibility. The man who takes responsibility for his life becomes dangerous because excuses no longer control him. Many men stay trapped for years blaming women, blaming their childhood, blaming money, blaming bad luck, blaming society, while their real life slowly slips away day after day because blaming something outside yourself temporarily protects your ego but permanently destroys your growth. And this becomes painfully obvious after heartbreak, because instead of sitting honestly with their mistakes, many men either worship women blindly or completely hate them while refusing to examine their own weaknesses clearly. And the truth is, she may absolutely behave selfishly, disrespectfully, emotionally manipulative, cold, or opportunistic. But your responsibility is not controlling her behavior. Your responsibility is controlling your standards, your boundaries, your discipline, your decisions, and the type of life you build moving forward, because Stoicism teaches that suffering becomes lighter when a man stops wasting energy complaining about reality and starts adapting intelligently to it. And once a man accepts this deeply, he stops begging life to become easier and starts becoming stronger. Instead, now every painful experience becomes information, every failure becomes discipline, every disappointment becomes clarity, and this changes a man completely, because now he no longer collapses emotionally when someone betrays him or leaves him. Now he studies the situation honestly, extracts the lesson, adjusts his behavior, and keeps moving forward with greater wisdom than before. And although many men secretly wait for someone to rescue them emotionally, the truth is, nobody is coming to save you. Not friends, not family, not women, not motivation. And once you fully accept that reality, your entire mentality shifts, because now your future finally belongs to you again, instead of belonging to circumstances outside your control. Number 6. Fix your body language. The way a man carries himself tells the truth long before he opens his mouth. Many men unknowingly communicate weakness every single day through nervous movements, poor posture, restless energy, weak eye contact, and physical tension, because their body reflects the chaos happening internally. And women instantly read this even when they pretend not to. Because confidence is not something you announce verbally, it is something your presence quietly communicates before conversation even begins. And this is why a man can say all the right words while still being overlooked, because his body exposes insecurity underneath everything he says. And Stoicism teaches that inner discipline eventually shapes outward behavior naturally, because a calm mind creates controlled movements, while an anxious mind creates restless behavior. So instead of obsessing over impressing people, focus on becoming comfortable within yourself first. Stand straight, even when life feels heavy. Walk slowly instead of rushing nervously. Hold eye contact without aggression or fear. Stop fidgeting for approval. Stop shrinking yourself to make others comfortable, because every physical habit either strengthens or weakens your presence daily. And many men destroy attraction by carrying emotional desperation visibly in their body language around women, leaning too far forward, overreacting emotionally, smiling nervously, constantly seeking reassurance through attention, while she quietly loses respect, because instability creates uncertainty. And the painful truth is people trust calm energy more than emotional intensity, so learn how to slow down physically and mentally, because a grounded man naturally creates safety, respect, and attraction without forcing any of it artificially. Number 7. Listen deeply. The man who truly listens becomes unforgettable because genuine attention is becoming rare. Many men enter conversations focused entirely on proving themselves, impressing women, being funny, appearing intelligent, or waiting impatiently for their turn to speak. And because of this, they completely miss what people are actually revealing about themselves through their words, emotions, tone, and behavior. And this creates shallow relationships built on performance instead of understanding, especially with women, because she often tells you exactly who she is long before problems appear. But emotionally distracted, men ignore the signs because beauty, loneliness, desire, and attachment cloud their judgment. And later they act shocked when her behavior finally exposes what was always there from the beginning. But Stoicism teaches a man to observe calmly, instead of reacting impulsively, to pay attention without immediately becoming emotionally consumed by appearances or emotions. And once a man develops this discipline, he begins seeing people more clearly, because now he listens carefully, notices patterns, studies behavior over promises, and understands that words alone mean very little without consistency behind them. And this changes relationships completely, because now he stops chasing fantasy and starts valuing truth. Now he notices disrespect earlier, manipulation earlier, emotional instability earlier. And instead of trying to rescue broken situations endlessly, he protects his peace intelligently. And beyond relationships, this habit transforms every part of life, because people naturally trust a man who genuinely listens without constantly making everything about himself. And in a loud world full of attention seekers, the man who remains fully present during conversation instantly stands apart from everyone else. Number 8. Choose discomfort. The man who runs toward discomfort becomes stronger than the man who spends his life avoiding it. Many men slowly destroy their potential through comfort without realizing it, because comfort feels safe in the moment, while quietly making them physically weak, mentally soft, emotionally dependent, and spiritually empty over time. And this becomes dangerous because life eventually forces discomfort onto every man, whether he prepares for it or not, through heartbreak, betrayal, loneliness, financial struggle, aging, disappointment, or failure. And the men who never discipline themselves beforehand completely collapse when pressure finally arrives, because they built their entire lives around avoiding struggle instead of mastering themselves through it. And Stoicism teaches that voluntary hardship builds inner strength, because every time you deliberately choose difficult things, your mind learns that pain is survivable and growth is possible beyond temporary discomfort. So train your body even when you do not want to. Wake up earlier, have difficult conversations directly, spend less time chasing pleasure endlessly. Stop numbing yourself through distractions, because every hard decision slowly rebuilds your self-respect piece by piece. And many men remain trapped in emotional weakness because they spend years escaping discomfort through entertainment, addictions, validation from women, and meaningless habits while avoiding the discipline required to transform their lives. But the truth is, confidence is built through surviving difficult experiences repeatedly, not through comfort. And once a man understands this deeply, he stops seeing discomfort as punishment and starts seeing it as training for the stronger version of himself waiting on the other side of discipline. Number 9. Spend time alone. The man who cannot sit alone with his thoughts becomes a prisoner to noise and distraction. Many men stay constantly surrounded by entertainment, social media, relationships, meaningless conversations, and endless stimulation. because silence forces them to confront parts of themselves they have been avoiding for years, their regrets, insecurities, fears, wasted time, emotional dependence, lack of direction, and unresolved pain. And this is why so many men panic emotionally when a woman leaves, because they built their entire identity around external attention instead of building a strong inner foundation privately. And once that attention disappears, they suddenly realize they do not even know who they are without someone validating them constantly. But Stoicism teaches that solitude is necessary because clarity only appears when distraction disappears. And once a man spends time alone honestly without escaping into noise, he slowly begins understanding himself clearly for the first time. Now he notices his weak habits, his emotional triggers, his destructive patterns, his lack of discipline. And although this process feels uncomfortable initially, it eventually becomes freeing because self-awareness creates transformation while distraction keeps a man stuck permanently. And this changes relationships completely because now he no longer enters connections out of desperation or loneliness. Now he chooses people carefully instead of emotionally attaching himself to anyone who gives him temporary attention. And women sense this difference immediately because a man who enjoys his own company naturally becomes less needy, less emotionally dependent, and far more grounded than the man constantly searching for someone else to complete him emotionally. Number 10. Keep growing with age. The man who keeps improving while others slowly give up becomes impossible to ignore. Many men reach a certain age and mentally surrender without admitting it openly because disappointment, heartbreak, routine, stress, and years of struggle slowly convince them that growth no longer matters. So they stop training, stop learning, stop taking care of themselves, stop building meaningful goals, and eventually they begin existing instead of truly living. And this quiet surrender destroys something deep inside a man because purpose disappears when growth disappears. And women often lose respect for these men because stagnation creates lifeless energy while discipline and ambition create presence. And Stoicism teaches that a man must continue refining himself until his final day. Because character is not built once and kept forever. It requires constant discipline, reflection, self-control, and intentional living over years. And once a man understands this, he stops viewing age as decline and starts viewing it as an opportunity to become wiser, calmer, stronger, and more grounded than he was before. Now his standards become sharper, his emotions become more controlled, his mind becomes clearer, and his presence becomes heavier, because experience combined with discipline creates depth that cannot be faked artificially. And although many men spend years regretting the past, the truth is, your future changes the moment you decide to stop wasting what remains of your life, because every day still offers another chance to rebuild your body, rebuild your mindset, rebuild your discipline, and rebuild your identity into someone you can genuinely respect when nobody else is around. Society trains men to stay distracted, emotionally dependent, weak, easy to control, and disconnected from the timeless truths that build real strength, which is exactly why the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men matters so deeply right now, because it contains powerful Stoic principles that can immediately transform the way you think, handle relationships, control your emotions, and rebuild your self-respect. And it is now available in the audiobook version, so you can listen while driving, training, jogging, or sitting quietly rebuilding your mind in private, with the link waiting for you in the comments. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint course for men is also launching in the coming weeks, built from more than 2,000 years of Stoic wisdom that has stood the test of time, designed to help you apply these principles directly to your life, your mindset, your discipline, and your relationships before more years disappear, chasing people who never truly valued you in the first place. Comment unshaken if you are ready to take your power back, and like and subscribe so more men can find these truths before life teaches them the hard way through pain, loneliness, and years they can never get back.